So now the next step is this upper layer. Now the upper layer is very difficult with Saturn, and honestly I had to act more as a guide than a direct tutorial on how to do it. But if you keep playing with it, you'll do it. Uranus, same kind of thing. It got a little more difficult with the banded sides. Oh, the non-banded sides rather. But because we have two non-banded sides, this actually is much, much easier, and I'll show you why. The first step is let's go ahead and put in our yellows here to make our cross. And we're going to once again use these. This will go up here, but we can't do that algorithm on a banded side, so we're going to have to move it over here. I'm sorry, to a non-banded side to use a banded side. And on the left side, that's going to be Fi, Ui, Li, and then U, L, F, and that put it over here. Then we want to put this in. This one's on the right side, and that's going to be F, U, R, Ui, Ri, Fi. So there it is. It's put in. So now before we had to do some really funky moves of putting this down to the green side, we don't have to do any of that now. And the reason is because the unique configuration of this, where you have a non-bandaged on top and then two non-bandaged is here, is we can actually turn this into something of a circle cube just by keeping these non-bandaged sides together. And as long as we're doing these motions, you can treat it exactly like the circle cube, and we're able to do something with this cube we couldn't do with the others, which is do algorithms and not worry about what happens on these sides because they're already fixed. So let me tell you what I mean. All we have to do is get the cross the way we did with the circle cube without worrying about moving things in. So what you see here is that L formation. And all of our moves are going to be with one non-banded side in front of us and the other non-banded side to the right of us. As long as we do that, we can treat it just like a circle cube or just like a supercube, basically. So let's move this so that the L is in the proper configuration here. And I'm just going to do that same algorithm that we do with supercubes or Rubik's cubes to get the line and then get the cross over here. Don't believe me? Well, here's what's going to happen. We do our F, R, U, Ri, Ui, Fi. We have the line here, so we just need to put these in place, and we didn't touch this over here. So we do it again, and we're going to get our cross. Now there's something that I want you to realize that you might not have known about how this algorithm moves things around. Basically what's going to happen when I do that algorithm again, this is going to be exactly the same. So bear in mind, the orange and green won't change. This is going to come over here and get flipped around. So we're going to have our side here, but it's going to be red on red, so that's going to be solved. This is going to come over here and flip around, so it'll be blue on orange. This is going to come over here and just slide over here without flipping, so it's going to be green on blue. So just bear that in mind because that might become important later, but we'll go ahead and do that and see what happens. F, R, U, Ri, Ui, Fi. And sure enough, we have our cross in the predicted pattern. Solved, blue and orange, green and blue, and this one didn't change, orange and green. The reason why that's important is because if I wanted to get all these right, then as you recall from the supercube, what I had to do was a middle rotation holding this in front of us, and it'll rotate these into position. So it's really that easy with this cube. What I'm going to do first is I want to get all of my inner centers in the right place. Now bear in mind, just to remind you of that middle rotational algorithm, if you do that middle rotational algorithm and it's in a non-banded side right next to a bandaged side, it's going to rotate all of these inner ones around. So we do that if we need to move these guys. If we do that same algorithm on a banded side right next to a non-banded side, these inner ones are going to remain fixed and these are going to rotate around. We're going to use that knowledge in order to solve these things. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it to where I rotate these guys. So I'm going to put my in my non-banded side the green, and I'm going to keep doing it until I get the orange over here. So that's going to be, this is that same algorithm, the R, U, Ri, the R, U, Ri, U, R, 2U, Ri. So So we got the blue one here, do it again. Green, orange, red, so all that's in place. So that's what I wanted. Now what I want to do is get these to rotate. So I'm going to go to my, I need to go to a bandage side. Obviously it's not this, so I'm just going to move this over one and rotate it around until all these are solved. And bingo, solved, 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 put them back into place. So notice how much easier that was than doing the previous cubes, because as long as I organize it right, orient it right, I kind of turn it into sort of a portion of a circle cube. This is solved, and these two are not. So what do I do about this situation? Well, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do a middle flipping algorithm. So remember what that was? We've done that in previous cubes. This will bring this to here, this will bring this to here. But it's also going to rotate all of these around. It's going to rotate these middle ones here. So what's going to happen is that this will come here and this will come here. But as we're going to rotate, this red is going to come over to here to meet this orange. And this green is going to come over here to meet this blue. And these two are going to be opposites also. When I do this, I have to do it by a non-bandaged side. So I'm going to do all the action over here. Bring this over here and do a middle swap. An adjacent middle swap. And my goal is to bring these within 180 degrees. So I'm basically solving this the same way that I solved the supercubes. The same concept. As a matter of fact, I didn't have to do the rotational thing. I could have done it like this from the first moment, but that was just to demonstrate what happens. So that algorithm, of course, is going to be 2R, U, 2R, U, 2R, 2U, 2R, 2U, 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R. And it predictably did two things. Swapped these two, created parity here, and then rotated these guys around. And the end result of that is it basically put everything within 180 degrees of where it's supposed to be. This is kind of a review of how we solve the supercubes. To get out of this parity situation, I have to do another middle swap, whether it's an adjacent middle swap or an opposite middle swap. I'm going to do an opposite one, that's why I got it 180 degrees. So here's what's predictably going to happen. Both of these are going to be swapped out en masse. Well, these guys are going to rotate. So what I'm going to have is the blue and greens are going to be solved, the parity is going to be fixed, but these two are still going to have parity. And you can probably guess how I'm going to deal with that. So the opposite middle swap is going to be the 2R, 2U, 2R, 2U, 2R. Look at that. That's solved. These are solved as predicted, and these are not. So how am I going to get out of this parity situation? Well, we've seen this before. What I'm going to want to do is an algorithm that goes, that's my R2U, 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 but I have to move it to a bandaged side to do that. And just adjacent to a non-bandaged side. So that's not going to be in this case. I'm actually going to move this over here to fulfill that criteria. So I'm going to move this up, and this is the area that I'm going to be doing my algorithm. So it's going to be R, 2U, R, 2U, R, 2U, R, 2U, until I see yellow, which is over here. Move my yellows back, and lo and behold, it's now solved, and I'll move my centers in. So we have all of our crosses here, and what I did is I just solved this just like a supercube. I had a variety of different strategies, either a middle rotating one or adjacent swapping one, and in this situation there is no problem with getting out of any situations. If you want to swap these two without creating parity, you just do that last algorithm that I mentioned.